If someone was looking to get engaged or married to their partner that they're with right now, what would you say are 3 mandatory questions they should ask their partner before marriage to make sure that their answers are in alignment? And if they're not, then you should probably reconsider being in the relationship.
Well, my husband and I have a shared expression of faith.
Mm-hmm.
So I think making sure that you have a shared expression of faith, not even just a shared faith, but what does this expression look like for you? How does it show up in your world? Because everybody who believes in God isn't trying to live a life of light, love, and goodness, and conviction, and humility. And so making sure you have a shared expression.
So it's not just the same beliefs, it's the same shared expression of the belief.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because you could be like, yeah, I believe in God, but I'm an angry person.
Right.
And I'm just trying to tear the world down.
Exactly. How does your faith show up in your actions?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I will say that this isn't a question that you would have a shared answer to, but I think it's a question worth asking the person. And that is, what is the most traumatic experience you've had in your life? And how does the residue of that experience show up in your present?
Let's go. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So one more time. Say it again.
What is the most traumatic experience of your life? And how does the residue of that experience show up in your present?
That is so powerful, because if people have not healed the wounds of the past and they drag them into the present, they'll keep happening in the future, and it's going to affect the person you're with.
And we're all a little crazy.
Yes.
And if you have normalized something that was traumatic, then you have become comfortable sleeping with the enemy.
Wow.
I need to know that you know what hurt you, what wounded you, what changed the world, the way that you see the world. Because I want to help you clear your lens. I'm not asking you to not have the lens. I just want you to understand how it shows up in who you are right now, and what do I need to do in order to help you see beyond what happened to you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because if someone's replying and saying, well, I didn't really have anything, and they're just dismissing it, or if it is a big thing, but they're not willing to address it, it's like, it's going to impact you, the person you're with.
For sure.
They might be avoidant or reactive or explosive
exactly.
or aggressive. You don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Great question.
And I would say the last one is, what brings you joy?
Why that one?
This world is tough. And I want to know the secret to putting a smile on your face when the world's trying to wipe it off.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you think the world is in more pain now than when you were a teenager?
I do not know. It feels like it. And there are plenty of reasons why I think it feels like that. But I also think social media has put it more in our face than ever.
We didn't see this stuff before.
We didn't see it.
We would see it maybe in newspapers or...
But there were still wars. I mean, people were still going through a lot of pain. There were ups and downs in the economy. And so I want to believe that there was, the same or similar amount of pain.
We just didn't see it.
Yeah. But it does feel very magnified.
It does. What is you incorporate prayer in your life a lot. What is the prayer that you think the world needs to hear right now?
I think that every person has to be willing to ask themselves, God, what is it that I need to see? And who is it that I need to be to address what I see? I think it's too big of a thing to ask, what is the prayer that the world needs? But if I can get people to understand that who you are in your world matters, is significant, that you are a power player in your circle of influence, then they can take ownership over their corner of the world. And it may just be the 4 walls of their home.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. I want to believe that there's something in me that will address every single problem in the world. I want to believe that. All I have is this story, this platform, this gift to take the Bible and make it relatable. And it doesn't always feel like enough.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. But I release it anyway. And I believe that if we can all combine in releasing whatever we have anyway, that maybe we can make a difference in one person for one day or for a lifetime.
Yeah.
But I think we have to be willing to take ownership, because we've got devastation, and then we have people who are apathetic in many ways because they're so overwhelmed in what they can't do to solve what they see. But if we can engage in what we can control, I believe that we can see a difference. I have to believe that.
Yeah. I can't remember if this is like a quote or just an analogy, and I can't remember who said this, but something like, if you want to go change the world, start with your own house, start with your own family. I can't remember who said that. But it seems like so many people are trying to fix problems outside of their own life.
Yeah.
Like they're shouting about this cause and this problem and this thing in the world that's unjust and this war and this thing, changing these policies. And I get it. I understand that. But it also seems like they're just not happy with their own life. And they probably have challenges at home that they could be taken care of first. Why do you think so many people try to fix outside problems as opposed to focus on how they can improve their health, their relationships, their past, their traumas, their family situation? Why do you think we as society try to fix outside versus first fixing inside?
I do think that there are some people who are literally called to focus on what's happening outside of maybe their immediate circle of influence. Like that immediate circle of influence may not be their target audience,
sure.
right? But I also think that there are some people
But if they have broken relationships and they're, sick, or they're not taking care of that first, that's what
I mean, because it's just so much easier to sweep around someone else's front porch. It just is. I mean, we all know people who would give the best advice that they don't take.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that the advice itself is broken, but it is just really hard to do the heavy lifting for yourself. Most of the people who are the strong friend for other people are showing up for them, but they need strength themselves, because there is a vulnerability that comes when it's your life on the line, your relationship on the line, where the outcomes directly impact you.
Yes.
And so it can be very liberating to say, I'm going to tell you what to do, and then I will figure out my stuff later, or not at all. But I do think that you can only effectively impart what you know to be true.
Right.
Everything else is guesswork. But I can tell you that I found out power moves because I saw power on the platform, and I saw power in the car line, and I saw power when I was creating a business plan. I know this for myself. And when you know something for yourself, you're able to have a more convincing argument for other people. But it just requires a lot of vulnerability that many people aren't willing to step into.
Wow. I mean, did you say you had 2 kids as a teenager?
Well, I had one son at 14, and then I had my second child at 21.
21, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you're a teen mom.
Yeah.
And there's, that's not as common today, I guess, in America, right, as maybe it was in the past, but it's very rare, and it must be very challenging to be a 14, 15, 16-year-old mother in American society, I'm assuming. How did you not let that define you or hold you back in any way, or block you from your power and your ability to transform as a human being in the ways that you have? How did you not let that be your identity and keep you in some box?
I spent a long time thinking that would be my identity.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, because unlike other things that people go through, you got a baby on your hip. If you have recovered from addiction, you can recover and never look like what you went through. There are all of these different things that can happen to us that no one knows about. But I've got a baby on my hip and a young face. I look like a teenager who had a baby. And I figured if I am going to beat this, then I'm going to just add on some decorations to this title, right? I'll get a degree, I'll get the house, I'll do the marriage. And as long as I was concerned that would define me for the rest of my life, I was allowing it to define the choices that I made in life. And when I got to a point, I was probably 23 when I was still just even old enough at that point to have a child. I was still thinking that it would define me. And I just got to a point where I'm you know what? I have to accept this, that this is a part of my identity. This is a part of my lived experience. And yet I'm also not going to run from it for the rest of my life. And when I stopped running from it for the rest of my life and finally embraced it, I was able to see outside of that one thing. It was so hard for me to see outside of the fact that I got pregnant as a teenager. It just felt like, how could you be silly? How could you let this happen? And you're T.D. Jake's daughter. This is so embarrassing. And I couldn't see past that.
Was there a lot of shame that you were feeling? Or
For sure.
Really? What was the main emotion? Was it shame or was it guilt?
Shame.
Was it shame?
Shame. Also, I had my son at the age where purity culture was really prevalent in the faith community. And so everything that we were sending messages to young girls about was about not having sex before marriage. If you do, no one's going to want you. Like these, put on a white gown and say that you're going to be married to Jesus until you find your partner. And so, I have a sister who's just almost a year older than me. It's like 11 months in a few days. And so I would be sitting at her like purity class with my baby in the back.
No way. Oh my goodness.
Okay. So shame, definitely shame. Like, you're not one of the good girls. You're not the one who did it that way. And it was all that I could see.
Really?
Yeah.
It's really hard to be powerful when you feel shame, right?
Oh, yeah.
When were you able to let go of shame and step into power then?
I really feel like it was a gradual release. And I kept thinking that I would finally have one accomplishment that would make me feel better about it. And it just wasn't enough. Nothing could fix it. Nothing could do it. No relationship, no accolade. It was
No
never
degrees, nothing.
It was never enough. And so I finally realized, like, I'm not going to be able to just perform my way out of this.
Wow.
I'm going to have to really understand the messages that I have received and choose whether or not I agree with these messages. So especially, I didn't really understand faith fully at that age, but I do think there came a point where it was like, I have allowed shame to dictate most of my decisions. And why not try faith? Like, this idea of you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and no matter what you've gone through, God still loves you. Like, it was very much so an attempt. I didn't go from shame into this. I confidently believe everything,
right.
everything God says about creation belongs to me. Like, it was an attempt. It's like, I've tried shame. I've tried depression. I've tried promiscuity. Like, I've tried all of these different things. Let me just try to believe that I could be better than my past choices. Let me try to believe that His strength is made perfect in my weakness. Let me try to believe that I can have a fresh start. And if I were to try and believe this, what choices would I make if I thought it were true? And I started making those choices and trusting those decisions. And I started recognizing that as I moved in the direction of my faith with works, that I was coming back to life again.